By now, I'm sure that most of you have seen the video of the attempted church shooting over the weekend. If you haven't, it's pretty disturbing. It's right during the middle of a Sunday morning service. The pastor's in the middle of a sermon. You see a man walk up towards the front of the church. He pulls a pistol, points it at the pastor, squeezes the trigger, nothing happens, and a man rushes him, tackles him, and they take the pistol away from the guy. Apparently, the pistol jammed, or there was a misfire, or something happened, and thankfully, the gun didn't go off. But, you know, it took a lot of courage for the one man to rush a guy who was obviously armed and attempting to shoot someone. When he made the decision to rush the shooter, the attempted shooter, he obviously didn't know the gun wouldn't fire. So, you know, a big thumbs up to him for his actions. Had the gun actually fired, his actions might have saved the life of a lot of other people there as well. But it's a sad thing to see that happen in a church. But by now, we should realize that violence, particularly gun violence, can happen absolutely anywhere. You know, we can think of the shooting in Texas, where it was stopped by the man on the security team. You know, the Dylan Roof incident in South Carolina at a Wednesday night prayer meeting. We have this. And of course, that's just the ones that make the news and that we know about. You know, my dad's a pastor, and I know a lot of pastors, and there's so many other incidents that do not escalate to that point, but threats, or security gets involved, or law enforcement gets involved. I have a friend of mine who does security consultations, and he can tell you firsthand the number of people in positions of religious authority, pastors, or religious ministries that receive threats and things like that. So I think it's very important that we know that it can happen in houses of worship, regardless of our perception of that being kind of a safe place. I remember years ago when I lived in Florida, a friend of mine, she knew I carried a pistol everywhere, a little Beretta that I've had for years. And she would get mad at me when I carried it to church. Oh, you shouldn't be carrying that in church. Well, I think that attitude has changed a lot because we realize that it can happen anywhere, and it certainly can. So I certainly think that if your church does not have a serious security plan, a security team, a well thought out strategy of how to keep its leaders and the parishioners safe, I think you're a little bit behind the 8 ball on that, and you really need to address that in your church. You know, bring it up to your pastors, your deacons, whatever. You know, it's very, very important, and not just violence, but there was an incident, it's probably been a year or two ago now, where there was a custody dispute, and a child was taken from a nursery by a parent that wasn't authorized to have him. You know, all sorts of things can happen at a house of worship. So it's something that church leaders need to take seriously. And, you know, you as an individual, even just you attending church, you still need to be vigilant even while at church, and realize that you need to be aware of what's going on, and certainly things can happen. But thankfully, this did not result in the loss of a life. Thankfully, there was a man in the church who stepped up and made the decision to intervene, even at great risk to himself. Man, what a great job that guy did. Certainly the hero of the situation. And again, just if you're a church leader, or something you need to take seriously, church safety, and you know, make sure that you're on guard when you're at church, because violence can happen absolutely anywhere. Hope you have a good day and stay safe.